And welcome to 2 Minutes to Target. And today we're going to be talking about my 300 PRC and more specifically the rebarrel that I just did on my 300 PRC done by Spartan Precision up in Caldwell, Idaho. Now, I don't like shipping my rifles. I get a little bit of anxiety when you have something that takes years to build up. Getting lost in the mail or something, it's not about the cost. It's about what happens when you can't get it back. So I was going to drive all the way up to Caldwell. It's about a 9-hour drive in the best of conditions, no traffic, and drop off the rifles, drive back, and then drive back up, pick up the rifles and drive back. Well, do the math. That's a minimum of 36 hours. By the time you stop, do your stuff, whatever along the way, that's like a week's worth of time that I would have spent in the car just to go drop off the rifles and pick them back up again. So Markup at Spartan says, rather than go and do that, why don't you just drive up here and stay up here for a day? We'll spin up the barrels and you can see everything that it takes to put a new barrel on a rifle. And I was like, listen, with my engineering background, I love it. Can I video it and make something out of it? And he said, absolutely. And I got to see all of that and more, especially some of the extra steps that Spartan puts in to make sure that their barrels are just dead on target every time. So let's go ahead, before we get started on the rebarrel stuff, let's talk a little bit about the rifle itself. So for those of you who have seen my 6 BRA video, this is very similar in build, different because it's obviously a long action versus a short. It's meant for ELR and has some extra stuff on there for that, but essentially very similar, and that starts with the action. Both are built off of Defiance Deviant action, and this is probably my favorite action out of all the ones I've got. I've got a Bat, Impact, Deviant, and some others. But really, the Deviant is my favorite. It's just bulletproof. It just shoots. It's smooth. It always chambers. I really enjoy this action. Moving down underneath that, this is all held together with a Manners PRS-1 stock. And if you scroll back over to the left here, and we'll see this bracket I've got. I custom made a bracket that goes in the back of the stock that underneath holds an adjustable bag rider. And I find the adjustable bag rider, or ABR, to be a really, really nice thing to have when you're shooting, off on the dirt. You're prone. Every shot, things get mucked up a little bit, and you got to readjust. It is so nice not to have to screw with your bipod or to be squeezing a bag all the time with ELR. Every little bit of motion, impacts these long-range shots. So the ABR, I've just found to be so enjoyable to shoot with. It also allows using a hard bag. I've got a custom-made half-height protector. I made it half-height to accommodate for the fact that I added some height to the bottom of the stock. And up top, I've got a ZCO, or Zero Compromise 5-27 with the MPCT-1 reticle. I like this reticle a lot better than the Christmas trees for ELR. That stuff down the bottom always mucks with finding misses that go low. And I find that having a clear reticle for ELR is much more important. Also, another critical aspect to this is the floating dot. I find that the solid reticles just block the target a little bit too much. The dot allows you to see more and better place on the target when you're shooting at range. Securing the ZCO to the action is the American Rifle Company mount, one-piece mount. I like it. I can't say anything bad about it at all. It does its job. What else can you say about a mount? Now let's move on to the real subject of the video, which is the barrel. And I had on there a Bartlett 1-9 twist, 28 inches M24 contour. I kept the contour and the length the same. I changed the twist. I went from a straight up 9 to a 9-8 gain, and I went to a left-hand twist. And we could talk about it in the comments if you have questions as to why I did that. And of course, I went with Bartlett's 400 Mod BB proprietary material for the extra barrel life. And one thing I did that is sort of part of the barrel is to change brakes. And on my 37XC, I use a Terminator T5 brake. And I got to say, I got kind of spoiled with this thing. First off, it's a great brake. Secondly, it is not a self-timing brake. And you may say, well, why did you not want to go self-timing? Well, I didn't have a lot of options, number one. But number two is it is so much nicer not to have to time up the brake every time you pull it off to clean it. Now, what this does mean is when your gunsmith's cutting the barrel, specifically the threads for the muzzle brake, they've got to time those against that specific brake. It's a little extra cost, a little bit of extra time, but I think it's well worth it. So what I did on the 300 PRC, the new rebarrel, is I decided to go with the T5's baby brother, the Terminator T3. And true to form, I love it. Very easy, again, to pull it on and off. I wouldn't go any other way going forward. So now let's get into the business of actually cutting the barrel. And one of the things that Spartan does that not everybody does, especially in some of the commercial prefits, is he makes sure that the barrel, when he puts it into the lathe, that barrel is lined up perfectly. And the way he does it is he puts a rod inside the barrel as it engages the lands, and that's lined up then perfectly with the barrel. That's first. And then he'll go and put two different calipers or two different micrometers onto the barrel, and they're little lever micrometers similar to like you used to when you're measuring runout. And they will go up or down based on whether the front or back of the barrel is in sync or not. So you can see here, when you turn it, this was first put in, you can see those things moving all over the place. Then what he'll do is he'll go and he'll find the high spot, and he'll go and tighten down that side in the back, and that gets one good. And then he'll tighten down the one in the front, and that gets that good. But the other one moves a little bit, and he goes back and forth. And this takes about 10 to 15 minutes per barrel. But it's this extra thing that at the end of the day, make sure that when you're going in and cutting the chamber, cutting the muzzle, that it is lined up 100% perfectly. So now it's time to actually start cutting, and what he's doing first, again, this is the muzzle end of the barrel, is cutting it down so that it can accept the muzzle brake. And this is just really getting it to the point where you can cut threads. It's just pass after pass, a little bit of material at a time. By the way, that liquid coming out is coolant, serves also as a little bit of a lubricant. But you can see when it's done, it's ready for threads. Those haven't been cut in yet, but pretty darn cool, right? And then here we go, time to cut the threads. And once again, it's pass after pass after pass, and it just takes a little bit of material each time. And then when everything's said and done, it's ready to get that brake put onto it. And then the last thing to do on the muzzle end, aside from timing the brake, is to put a little crown on it. And now it's time to do the action end of the barrel, do the tenon, cut the chamber. But again, got to get it lined up. So he does the exact same thing he did on the muzzle and gets these things perfect so that everything is lined up right along the length of the barrel. So unfortunately, I don't have any really good video of cutting the barrel tenon thread, so I'm going to have to use this kind of crappy animation I came up with. But basically what Spartan does is they'll go in and they'll do an initial cut at the barrel tenon threads. And they anticipate that it's not going to fit, but they'll get it close in. They'll see it doesn't fit. Okay, now I'm going to go run and do another cut, take a couple thousandths off, try it again. Maybe it's a little bit tight, fits on, do another cut, maybe half a thousandth off, and then they have really perfectly fit threads to the action. Now, you might say that's pretty straightforward. Doesn't everybody do that? And the answer, quite frankly, is no. This is an action and a barrel that I was trying to get Spartan to help me with. It was from a commercial prefit outfit. And you can see all the play that's present in the barrel tenon action interface. And this is a lot of movement. It can cause galling. It can cause other issues. And this one we measured, by the way, and it came out that it was 6/1000ths under what the minimum spec is. And this is something where if you're just 2/1000ths out, it's a problem. So with this particular barrel, we put it in the lathe and we could not get it lined up. So the chamber was not true to the bore. So finally, I just said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to order a new barrel, cut me a new one. I just don't want to deal with something that's not right. So this is another example of why the attention to detail and the little things matter. So as I mentioned, I don't have good video of the barrel tenon threads getting cut. Or this action, which is sort of pre-boring the chamber so the reamer doesn't have to work as hard. So we're just going to jump right into the reamer doing its work. So what they're doing here is moving this reamer in slowly, doing a little bit of cut. And similar to the threads, they'll do multiple passes going a little bit deeper each time until they get close to where they think the chamber is. And then when they're right about there, they stop the lathe, insert a go gauge, measure, and then make another pass, or multiple passes or not, as necessary, and then the barrel's ready to go. So this last part, I didn't think it would be as cool as it is, but it really is pretty neat, and it's where they etch the barrels. They have this ultra-powerful laser for doing it, and I'm just going to shut up and let you watch it happen. So we got the rifle put together. I ended up doing the drive back. Luckily, no snow this time. Actually, it was quite a pleasant drive. And it was time to get some stuff loaded up and take it out to the range. I did 0 load development ahead of this. I just picked a random, relatively low, but random charge weight using the Burger 220s. And I went out the range to really break in the barrel, get it sped up a little bit. And this is the result that I had just about 10 rounds in. All right, walking up to the target, and I've got a few of these that are a little bit all over the place, but those last 3 I shot are right there. Yeah, I don't know, that's probably half MOA-ish, which, considering I've done absolutely 0 load development and no seating depth tuning, no anything on this, just right out of the box, random load, random everything, and this is what I'm getting. I got to say that you know, I'm sure I'll be able to tune this straight into one holders as soon as I get the barrel sped up and get some load development done. So I'm pretty happy with this. So when I got home, I actually did get that group and put it into Ballistic X, and it came out at just under half an MOA. I ended up shooting another 5 shots after that, did a group that was just a little over half MOA. Again, I'm ecstatic with this out of the gate because, to reiterate, this was done with absolutely 0 load development, 10, 15, 20 shots in, new barrel, new brass, new bullet, new everything. And I think I'm going to be able to get this down again into a 1-hole rifle pretty easily. This does not surprise me for the quality of work coming out of Spartan. It just comes down to the extra steps they take. So I hope you've enjoyed this and have a little bit better appreciation to what goes into cutting a barrel. I certainly learned a lot. I'd never seen it before, and I'm very appreciative to the folks at Spartan for letting me do this, as well as giving me a great barrel coming out the other side. We'll catch you next time on 2 Minutes to Target.